Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Arsenal Way podcast with me, Samridh, and him, Ashwin. We're a brand new Arsenal channel present across all social media channels. Follow us on Twitter at the Arsenal Way. We have a Facebook page at the Arsenal Way if that's your thing, and of course we're on YouTube where we upload pretty much all our content right from day one. Follow us, subscribe to our channel, help us grow. Click the bell icon to be notified whenever we put out something new. More importantly, hope you guys are staying safe in this era of the pandemic. And hope you're getting your football fix from somewhere. If not, if there's always us. You can tune in and hear us talk about how things are going. Ashwin, hope you're well. Hope you've somehow managed to keep yourself entertained over the last few weeks.
I'm good. I'm safe. Let's hope that everybody else is safe as well. In terms of football, I think it's been now, is it day 39, day 40 without football? It's just terrible. Like, at least during the summer, you look forward to, there are new signings coming in, there's a preseason to come, and then that the whole season to come ahead. Here, we genuinely don't know when football is going to start again and how long this virus is going to take to finally go away. So it's just the wait right now. How I'm keeping myself busy is I'm playing a lot of video games. I'm playing a lot of PlayStation, playing FIFA, been playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption. So that's the way I've been keeping myself busy. How are things there? How are things in Delhi? How is the situation there?
It's fine. It seems like they've got a handle of things on things. I think and the chief minister's been pretty proactive on trying to figure things out. But yeah, I guess it's a whole new situation that we'll be confronted with once we do eventually start heading out again. Things will change. But coming back to the more fun stuff, this week we're going to be talking about our top 5 goalkeepers and our top 5 defenders since you and I began following Arsenal. So I'm going to go number 1, of course, just purely because of his legendary status as Arsenal.
Are you going 1 to 5 or are you going 5 to 1?
I'm going 1 to 5.
Oh, you're going 1 to 5. Okay, fine. All right.
Just in terms, and it's unfortunate I didn't get to watch very much of him during his prime, but he was there for a large portion of his Arsenal career. Seaman, of course, number 1, just because of the status that the man commands at the club. Number 2, I can't look past Mad Jens, just because he was part of the Invincibles and how much he brought a certain madness to that position that we didn't really have. And it seems like we've been poor in the goalkeeping department over the last few years, since that is before Leno came on, and Leno, I think, has looked so much better now, especially this entire season, than any of the other keepers that we've had. That would be Lehman at number 2. Number 3, I would say if he had maybe been a little bit more serious with his career at Arsenal, as he is now at Juve, I think Szczesny, for whenever he was on his game, he was great. He had the abilities that people didn't look for in a keeper. He was tall, he was agile, was decent on the ball, could pick out a man if required. Distribution could have been much, much better, but again, just his carelessness of youth, I guess, and his unfortunate end to his Arsenal career with the smoking incident and whatnot. I think he could have gone on to become genuine great for us if he stuck around. Number 4, I don't know. It's like the last 4 and 5 are difficult because they were both equally shite and they would both equally have just really great games. But I'd say somehow Fabianski pips it at number 4, just because of just how terrible he was and how much he improved as he gained confidence from label Flappy Handski to then having a decent run of games, and he's made a decent career for himself at the likes of West Ham and I guess it was just more of a confidence thing with him, which I think I remember Arsenal also said at the time that with keep young keepers, it's with keep the position itself, it's a very confidence driven position anyways, because a single mistake can lead for them. There is no other outcome. It's zero sum game for them. So um, their mistake is the most costliest mistake for out of all the 11 positions. So I think Fabianski at number 4, just because of the improvement that he showed from when he first started to towards the last part of his career, and I think finally uh, Almunia I think would be 5, because he was just not a good keeper. He was quite terrible right throughout. Um, so many games where he just would cause us, just look not confident on the ball, either with his hands or with his feet. With taking balls, blocking them out of the air like other keepers should and easily should be able to do. He would probably be my. I mean, we're saying top 5. I don't think he would even make it to the top 5 anywhere if this list was even longer. I think.
So
Um,
I think you're forgetting we've had some decent keepers. We've had Czech and Ospina as well. Does Almunia still fit into your top 5 with Czech and Ospina there?
I don't think Ospina was great. Genuinely, I didn't think Ospina was a great keeper. Czech cost us more points than he saved for us. He never. I don't remember him ever saving a penalty for us. He was
One penalty.
one penalty in what, for 14 or 15. I think it's
Yeah.
some strange record like that, and it's. I mean, that just shows how much I was really kicked when Czech came on board. And it just went downhill from there. I mean, you could probably say that the player he was at Chelsea was also hugely because of the team in front of him. The likes of Viteri, Carvalho, and several other of those super world class players that they used to have. We never had that, especially not across the back line. Um, no, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, you're right. I probably could have replaced Almunia with Czech, but then Czech would still be below Fabianski.
Okay.
Um,
So top 5 that in that order. So is Almunia still
I
sticking
mean,
or?
now that you mention it, now that you mention it, I probably switch Czech 4 and Fabianski 5. Wouldn't include Almunia at all.
Okay, all right. That's a fair shout. I'm going to actually go backwards. I'm going to start from number 5 first. Again, toss up between Ospina and Fabianski. I know when Fabianski played for us, we had a torrid time, had that nickname, Flapianski. Didn't really do himself any favors. Kept coming out, kept missing the balls, kept flapping at it, and just never looked confident as a keeper for us. I think we went through a spell of having some really bad keepers. It was Almunia, followed by Fabianski, followed by I don't even remember who before we had Chesney come in and like really steady the ship before he went complete crazy and that whole smoking incident happened at Southampton where we lost 4-0. I remember that incident. But yeah, so number 5, I think Fabianski just pips Ospina for me. I really liked Ospina as a keeper. I felt that he had that moment of brilliance in him. Even though he wasn't the best of best, he really he was a big game player. Like whenever called upon, he shone and he did really well. So I felt it's a toss up between the two of them. But I think Fabianski just pips it because I think you're right. After Fabianski left us and joined, say us, I think he got his confidence at Swansea. He did really well. There was a year where he was almost the best keeper in the league that year. I mean, I think De Gea pipped him, and I mean, having De Gea pip you to number 1 is a great feat. Like he's the best keeper in the world. But Fabianski, for him to go from shaky team at Arsenal to doing really well at Swansea and then getting a move to West Ham and doing really well there was good for him. Good to see that he had his confidence back. So that's number 5 for me. Number 4, I think again toss up between Czech and Chesney, but I'm gonna have to go with Chesney. Like you mentioned, when we signed Czech, I was over the moon. I know Wenger wanted him before he went to Chelsea, and he was one of the players that at Chelsea, when he was at Chelsea, that I really wanted because he was one of those guys that was like a man mountain, like no one could get past him. And even after that brutal head injury of his, he came back and he still kept so many clean sheets. Till today, I think he's the one with the most clean sheets in the Premier League. He's got that record. So so Petr Cech was somebody that when we signed, I thought that we were going to be like a force to reckon with. But I think we signed him at a time when it was all downhill for him, and like this is the end of his cycle. Didn't really work out the way that we wanted to. I still remember the very first match against West Ham at the Emirates. He made two crucial mistakes and we lost that game. Was it 2-1 or 2-0? I don't even remember the first game. And yeah, and that penalty record, saving one penalty against out of 14 was just horrible. So I'd have to give it to Chesney. I was very recently, I don't know, on Twitter, I was reading something which spoke about how when Chesney was in training, uh, he would not let anybody score past him. Like no one could. I think this was the under 17s or under 18s, and Chesney would not let anybody score against him, and he was that good. And to be honest, Wenger put him in when he was really young. I think he started Chesney at 20, 19 or 20, and Chesney became like like part of the first team instantly because he was so good. I think it was that period where we were coming off Almunia and Fabianski not really doing well, and we needed somebody to come and stabilize the ship, and Chesney was the right man. I don't know how it went downhill for him, but I'm glad that he's managed to get back his career at UA. He managed to actually get displace Buffon. He managed to actually get the number one spot off Buffon. Buffon moved to PSG. He's come back to UA again, but Chesney is the number one fixture over there, and he's doing really well. So I'm really happy for him. So that's number three. No, that was number four. Sorry, number three for me would have to be Bernd Leno. I think he's come and he's really, really stabilized the ship. Sure, he's made a few mistakes, but he's saved us far more than he's made mistakes. The 2 seasons that he's been here under Emery and at the start of the season, where we were literally hanging on to games, either with Aubameyang scoring the one goal, and because teams were peppering shots at us, at shots and goal, like we were. I remember the Watford game where we conceded about 26 shots, and had it not been for Leno that game, we would have probably lost that game 4-1 or 4. I don't even remember the scoreline, but we would have definitely lost that game. Leno's made some great saves this year. He's kept us in along with Aubameyang. So shout out to him also. He could have probably been one of the players of the years for us. So number three goes to Leno. Number two for me, to be fair, I watched Seaman very late. Maybe just caught him towards the fag end of his career. So I don't really, even though for me, he'd always be the number one keeper. And I'd probably get slated by a lot of people for not putting him number one there. But I didn't watch him enough to really put him there. So he's going to be number two for me. Number one has to be Mad Jens. I mean, there's nothing that we've not really already said about him. I think that we spoke about this in the first podcast, in one of the early podcasts, where Lehman was actually the amount of shithousery that he used to do. I remember this one time. There was a video going around where he actually went behind the hoardings and he took a piss in the middle of the football game, and Lehman was different level. That winner mentality, I don't think that we've had that sort of keeper for a very long time. I think it had to do a lot with the mentality under the Invincibles. Like you had your Vieiras, to your Bergkamps, to your Henrys, to everybody, Ljungberg, everybody being a winner, and having Mad Jens there also being a winner was something that I think our team is missing in. Like we might have maybe one or two guys, but the Invincible team maybe had about 7-8 guys who were pure winners, who wanted to win, who would change things around, which is why the mentality is so much different today compared to what it used to be. So that is my top five.
Great list. I think the only reason I would not put Leno there was because I think it's still new and early days for him. I think we've seen a peak of Arsenal defenders in terms of quality, then a sort of a lull period, and now again it's going back up there. Not to say that Leno isn't better than an Almunia or a Fabianski, but I just think he's much too recent for me to even consider him in a list or having watched him from afar to give him that credit. Great, definitely, but not someone who I would at this point at least put in a list of favorite Arsenal keepers for their good parts as well as for their calamities that we invariably shared a laugh over.
I mean, I had to moving on. I've had to put him in because of the sort of keepers that we've had. I think Leno's basically, since Lehman's come in, like I don't think we've had somebody who's been able to stabilize the ship as much as he has, and to be dependent on somebody. Like if I know if somebody has gone through clean one-on-one, like I know Leno has a chance of saving it. But earlier when somebody went one-on-one, I said that was a goal straight away. There would be no chance of them being stopped at all. At least with Leno, we have a chance.
You're right. I think he's great. Maybe in hindsight, maybe adding him in probably number 3 would probably where I would fit in. But I guess just from the kind of keepers that I've had, I didn't really think it would make sense to put him here. But maybe in another years time, when we maybe revisit this list, maybe have him in there as well. But moving on with top 5 defenders. Again, okay, let me do it reverse. Let me look at go from number 5 to number 1. Number 5. I mean, we've had some terrible, terrible defenders. We've
I
had
was
a whole
just
bunch of.
I was just going to tell you the same thing. I said we have so many bad defenders that it'd be easier for us to do a list of bad defenders than top defenders.
No, but I guess just to keep it fair, just for his legendary status um, as someone who's always smiling and who is just a lot of fun to watch on the pitch, I think I'll just keep it for kicks. I'll keep Eboe there because he was a lot of fun. You'd always expect the unexpected. He wasn't the best on the ball. He did have some his good moments, but he was just, I think, a natural all-rounded fun guy. To have on the pitch because he was unpredictable. I guess that's what made him a lot more fun to watch. Just a genuinely good person as well. So number 5 there. Number 4, I would say Segon, only because he was Segon and tied with Centros there for their contributions in Champions League run to the final in 2006, and of course in the Premiership in the season we went unbeatables for whatever role he played. I think that is why I would probably add the both of them there. They were probably as bad as each other.
We're doing a top 5 list of great defenders.
Yeah, I know,
Are you
but
really putting secret in that list? Really?
yeah, because again, so I'm just putting him there just for his contribution, for both their contributions, if for nothing else. In terms of, I mean, ability wise, would just, I mean, yeah, I would do that, but that would just be boring because you'd have like the same 5 people anyways. But just in terms of their contribution to the club as a whole, Segon, because he was part of the Invincibles, for whatever little part he played, of course, Andros for uh, being part of a makeshift backline that took us all the way to the Champions League final. I think we went without conceding for a record number of games as well
10
as
games.
minutes. Yeah,
Right.
so and he played a hugely important role there. So it was not that he was a bad player. It was just he was drilled to do like he was sort of like you tell that look, if the ball comes, kick it and nothing else, and he would do that. He was that sort of player. So just in terms of the contribution, I would probably have both of them at number 4, tied for 4. Number 3, I think, is when all the good stuff starts. Tony Adams, Mr. Arsenal, great man, great Arsenal player, legend of the club. He was a proper English old school defender. Get stuck in, make the challenges, make the tackles. A leader of men, inspiring his teams to numerous titles. Um, 3 there. 2 would mean, of course, Sol Campbell, for no reason except for the fact that he came from Spurs. He was, of course, influential in us again winning, being the Invincibles, going a season unbeaten, um, and also for the fact that how he would take the piss out of Spurs after he started winning stuff. Number 2, and that would be Sol Campbell for me at number 2. And number 1, I cannot to date name a better fullback or a better left back to have played football, at least in all the time that I watched it. I mean, you could probably say Maldini was there, but Ashley Cole, for an English defender to have possessed that level of technical ability, um, that awareness of the game, of players around him, Um, to have dominated the likes of Ronaldo at a World Cup when he was just about to hit peak Ronaldo, um, to probably, I think, to Arsenal's loss for him not having remained at Arsenal for a good portion of his career, at least I think 3-4 years more. He would have just cemented his status as an Arsenal great.
I think it was about
Uh,
10K or 15K more that he was asking for, and we didn't give it to him.
yeah, no, I think it was much less. I think it was a 5K gap or something, if I remember correctly.
That's worse.
But that's worse. Uh, but no, I cannot. Probably for me, the greatest Arsenal defender I've seen over the last 20 something years of watching has to be Ashley Cole. And bear in mind, there are other people I could have gotten in this list. There's so many of decent but not great. Mertesacker is decent. Vermaelen was okay when he came for us. Koscielny was more than decent for us. Um, so many more. I can't even fathom the number of players who've played for us over the years. There was, of course, the banter era where we had Andres Santos as well. So I'm not named Lauren as well, but that would probably be my top five. Top three serious ones, 4 and 5 are for fun.
I'm glad you actually said that, because those two names that five where you said Senderos, Sigan, and Eboué, I was a little suspect as to what is happening here. But anyway, that's a fair call. It's a decent list. I'll start with mine. I'm going to start backwards again, 5-1. Number 5, I think we mentioned it. Doesn't get enough praise, and it was a bittersweet ending because of the way he left us and signed for the other club and had that whole jersey incident with Oze. Um, I have to say, number 5 is Koscielny. He was the best of the worst bunch that we had. And it's not really fair to say that, but he was really, really good. He was consistent. He was probably our best defender for a very, very long time. I still remember him signing for us in 2006 or 2007, was it, where he was really thin, lanky, and they said that he would never really be able to adapt to the league because he was too skinny, he'd get pushed over. But he did a fantastic job, and he captained the side for a while. He got us some crucial goals towards the end to get us top 4. So I think number 5, I think I have to give it to Koscielny, because he was there whenever he was Mr. Dependable. And apart from his injuries, I think had he not got injured too early in the start of his career, he would have probably gone on to win a few more things if we had a team fit and stayed consistent. So that's number 5 for me. Number 4, I can't look beyond Kolo Toure. You talk about the Invincibles. He was signed by Wenger. There's a story about how when they signed him during training, he cleaned Wenger out, he cleaned Bergkamp out, he cleaned Henry out.
Slide tackle him,
Yeah, slide tackle, yeah. So you talk about a guy who always smiles in Eboué. Kolo was the same. I think he always smiled. And for a person who was actually a central midfielder to be shifted to centre back and play so well and keep that, play alongside Sol Campbell and go 38 games unbeaten and be that invincible, do it all. Kolo Toure, number 3 for me, definitely. Number 3, you mentioned Lauren. I think if there was ever a no nonsense defender, it had to be Lauren. He was a guy that if I had to be up against Lauren before the game started, I would shit myself because of the way he is. And he's going to give us 100% in every game. He's not going to be one of those guys who does all the flicks and tricks. He's going to come doing a solid job. He's going to back you up. I was reading another thing on Twitter about Lauren where I think it was the one where they interviewed him about holding on to, was it Phil Neville or was it Van Nistelrooy's neck? I think it was Phil Neville during that match against United. And he said, if I had to do it again, I would do it again without a shadow of a doubt, because he's like, if I am somebody's teammate, I will do whatever I can to protect that person and my team. So that sort of attitude, that mentality is, it's something that our squad is missing. We're a little too soft these days. I don't think a lot of people stand up for each other like they did it back then. So number 3, Lauren. Number 2, I know you spoke about how Ashley Cole was the greatest ever, and I'd have to agree with that. I don't think I've ever seen any Englishman so, not only any Englishman, but anyone so technically gifted and so brilliant. That trio of Henry, Perez, and Ashley Cole used to probably be nightmare for any team facing them, because they were so good at interchanging. They telepathically understood each other, and it was a shame that we had to lose Ashley Cole to Chelsea, and then we got Gallas, which didn't really work out for us in any sort of way. But it was a massive shame that the better part of Ashley Cole's years came at Chelsea, and he became even better and even bigger at Chelsea, and instead of him becoming the legend that he was supposed to become at Arsenal. Number one for me. Um, Before I get in number one, I'm going to have to put honorable mention. I'm going to have to put obviously Tony Adams. I've only not added him to the list is because, again, I didn't watch too much of Tony Adams. I watched him towards the very fag end of his career. So for me to judge him on that would be wrong. But Tony Adams' honorable mention, definitely he would have probably been between 1 and 2 for me. But I've not picked him. I've obviously gone with Sol Campbell for the number one, my best defender. He was like a rock, signed from the arch nemesis, come for free, won the Premier League on their ground, done everything right. He was a man mountain. I remember, like no one could get by him. He was what Virgil van Dijk is to Liverpool right now. That's the sort of signing that we need in defense as well, to take us to that level back to. I mean, it wasn't only fine. We had fantastic players in the attack with Perez, Ljungberg, Bergkamp, Henry, who would score goals, who would get you out of trouble. But if you see, out of so many games that we played in the Invincible era, there were so many games that we won 0-0, or those hard-fought draws that we won. It was only because these guys were the back, they were protecting us, they played some intense football. And for a big guy, Sol Campbell had pace, he had power, he had technique, he had everything. He could play with the ball at his feet. For me, he was a complete defender. It was a shame that towards the end, again, his career went downhill. And I remember Wenger, he asking Wenger for a move, and Wenger tore up his contract and said, you can leave. And then he ended up signing for Portsmouth, and then that was it. That was his career done, dusted there. I think we could have still taken out maybe about 2 or 3 more years from Campbell if he had used him right, and if his head was in the right place. But yeah, that's my list. It's a little different from yours. But I mean, we have a few common players here and there. I know majority of people will have them as well. Guys, please let us know about your lists. If you agree with what Samridh and me have to say, if you like our lists, support us. Tell us in the comments. Tell us about your lists. And next week, both Samridh and me will come out and do our top 5 best Arsenal midfielders that we've had, and top 5 best Arsenal attackers that we've had. We might have to break that up because we've had so many different attackers and midfielders. We might have to break it up into maybe central midfielders versus wingers for midfielders, or we'd have to probably see if that's fair, because we've had so many players. And I mean, under Wenger, he would obviously favor more attacking players than defensive players. So we have, I don't even know if I can fit my top 5. 5 would be too little for me to fit in. I don't know about you, but anything else to add, Samridh? I think it's been a great episode.
No, nothing else. I think it's been fun. I just remembered that neither of us put Bakary Sania there.
Oh, he's actually.
So I mean, it just shows that there are only these handful of defenders who've been solid for us. Otherwise, I've just had a bunch of cartoons pretty much over the last few seasons, last decade, in fact. I mean, to think that I've put Eboe and Sylvester and Sagan over Eboe, Sagan and Sendros over Sylvester, and Andre Santos shows how much we shot ourselves in the foot in that department.
I remember a friend of mine had gone when we signed Sania that year. He had started for us at the Emirates Cup. I remember a friend of mine had gone to the Emirates that year, and he had seen him. He's a United fan, and he came back saying that you guys have signed a monster. And I remember, I think honorable mention to Sania as well. For the time that he was with us, he was a consistent player. Gave it his 100%.
Just wouldn't stop running. Like from he would. I mean, the times when he started playing as makeshift centre half as well. There was a whole period when he was play the right side of the centre half pairing, and he did that as well. And it was who did he leave? Who did he join after leaving us? Did he retire?
Man City.
Oh, right, he went to City. Right, I just completely forgotten about that.
After we won our first FA Cup, that's when he left and joined City.
Yeah, right. I still remember that picture of Wenger kissing his forehead when we won the FA Cup. Yeah, you're right. Wow, that's
I mean, United fans talk about how Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a revelation. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka would not be able to shine Bakary Sania's shoes. He was that good.
no, Sane was brilliant. Sane was, I think in 2006 was when I was in college when he first signed. I think it was between 4 and 5. I think was when he came,
Yeah. No,
and
6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Yeah.
And I remember telling this friend of mine after watching, I think the first couple of games, saying that how much this guy runs. Like he was just non-stop, and yeah, I mean, it's been unfortunate we've never been able to, like, we keep hearing the phrase that we've been rebuilding and rebuilding. It's the rebuilding exercise has gone on for a good part of a decade now, and we just haven't taken advantage of the times where we should have won titles, and at least 2 titles I think we let slip. Um, but anyhow, that's I guess all part and parcel of the game. Thanks, Ashwin. This has been fun. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as Ashwin said, support us, help us grow. We're on again, just to mention our socials again. We're on Twitter at the Arsenal Way. We're on YouTube. Subscribe, click the bell icon to be notified whenever we put out new content. And of course, on Facebook, we regularly post our videos there as well. So come like the page, give us a shout, and talk to us about what you guys want to hear next. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, Ashwin.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Samridh.